And one of the things that people call Cape Jazz is that because some of the African people came from the Eastern Cape, and they held dearly to some of their tradition and their songs, but they also interacted with other people. So you get a mix of Goma, a mix of closer traditional music. You also get jazz. That gives the thing a very sort of distinctive Cape sound.
Columbus Ngqana never went into exile, but he shaped a sound and a generation here at home in Cape Town. His sons, Duke and Ezra, keep up that tradition.
I played jazz music with Duke and Ezra's father, and his name was Christopher Columbus. I played jazz music with Cups Kanuka, we used to call him Cups and Saucers. Donald Shamela grew up in Kensington. I don't know if that makes him a colored, but a lot of Xhosa-speaking people lived in Kensington. But apartheid moved all these people to townships, including those who married colored wives, or people who didn't speak Xhosa. And they were encouraged only to listen to Radio Bantu, to listen to ethnic radio stations. They had an education only in their own ethnicity, because apartheid was about your own identity. And people were not allowed to mingle and to mix. So that process has harmed our transformation a great deal. In fact, people today cling to it. People in Mitchell's Plain say, no, I'm a colored, I want to preserve it. I'm a Malay. The apartheid government said I am one. If that didn't happen, people would have been Cape Townians. Jazz, for instance, in this country was flourishing very well until about 1960. And then all the laws were passed about no mixed dancing. White musicians cannot appear on the same stage as black musicians. So Chris McGregor has to leave the country, Hugh Masekela has to leave the country, Miriam Makeba leaves the country, Abdullah Ibrahim leaves the country, and we all go to our respective ghettos. And Duke has to play in Langa, and Tony Skilde has to play in Manenberg. And that killed the jazz culture, which was a culture which brought people together. And so for a long time, our jazz was stifled.
Radio Bantu had different ethnic stations for Xhosa-speaking people, for Sotho-speaking people. And the idea was to, as part of separate development, to have this sort of ethnic music. And this was supposed to be the culture of the people. And I thought many of us who were political resisted that. And somehow jazz represented for us what was a progressive, urban, non-ethnic, popular music.
When I met Basil Manenberg, he introduced me to Abdullah Ibrahim. I wasn't aware really of what the music was all about, of Abdullah Ibrahim's music. But I knew about Winston Mankunku now already, playing saxophone for a long while. In fact, I played with Mankunku and Ezra, the Tukana brothers. Yeah, they used to play with a band with us. It was like sort of not allowed, but we looked through that. We did it and nobody stopped us or objected,
And I've found that many people I've spoken to also came to jazz as a resistance to what they understood as a being boxed into certain musical tastes by apartheid. And jazz somehow transcended that.
It was just that we couldn't really go to the township and hang out because there was a law that if we caught, we had to pay a fine and stuff. So, well, we went to the township because we have to go into Cooks or Langa or Nyanga to meet with the guys and to play. And otherwise, you're never going to learn, you know. I mean, apartheid was, it kept us apart, so I don't think they were very successful in a way, you know, because that was actually the worst part of it, to keep all the black people away from each other.
I think that resistance by the cultural activists, not self-declared cultural activists, just people like musicians, connected up, in my understanding, connected up with the rising movement. So when you had the rise of black consciousness, which was a strongly anti-tribal movement, clearly they couldn't identify with Mpakanga. They could see through the agenda of this, and in various ways they kept the fire burning.
We've been very, very faithful to the West in the way we teach, one-on-one teaching, a heavy reliance on music literacy, practice makes perfect, focus on the individual, and so on. Now with African music and community genres, all of that is faced down on its head.
No. B-A-C-B-E. If you don't have to change the octave, they just play that thing from, just give him the A concert again.
The individual doesn't become so important anymore. It's the collective, it's the group. There isn't that much emphasis on reading. Yes, there might be a frame of reference, a kind of a structured environment. And so you learn through intuition, you learn through observation, imitation, and gradually as you get more skills through emulating the masters, that type of learning, it's a kind of a non-threatening form of music learning. And I don't think that universities have touched that in research yet. And then, of course, there's this whole area of African philosophy, Ubuntu, this togetherness, which sort of underpins all of that. Now, even the aesthetic aspect of Western music doesn't touch that at all. We still look at music as an object, not as music that is lived by people.
Although there are 3 universities in the city, this group is a product of homegrown, informal teaching, and it is this spirit which keeps Cape Town music alive.
even when we talk about Western music now, there could be lots of substantial African music influence and vice versa as well. And so I think what university music departments, particularly in South Africa, have to do is to be mindful of that and to teach African music or whatever different kind of community music exists, to teach that actively within their own curricula and say, look, this is our music, and for that to enjoy the same status as Western music.
Parallels like South America, Brazil. People say Brazil, they say the samba. They say West Indies, you say reggae. And I wish that we had retained the Cape identity in terms of our culture. And maybe there's a chance now that it's no longer abused by politics or by whatever other forces. Abuse and misuse culture. But it's going to be a struggle because we've inherited the distortions of the past, and lots of our people have internalized these distortions.
How I love to be free in my land, eat the fruit of the trees where I stand. How I love to be free as a man. Just don't know when we change his old plan. Change his plan. Change his plan. For in a cage we represent our mind. If set free in a peace where I found. Do you feel that little spark in your soul?
And we use a word in our country which I suppose is a transitional word. Because we're in the state of tradition, we talk about a rainbow nation. And the rainbow for me still talks about definite colors and definite stripes. I prefer kaleidoscope because it's ever changing, it's ever mixing, it's ever coming up with new permutations. So in the context of that, I want you to understand the music of this town.